Hello everyone, hope you're doing well wherever you are. So today it's a happy Wednesday. I hope you're well wherever you are. So business first. So today what's happening? What's happening today is a white person receives backlash from Africans and other people outside Africa reacts to the issue of him adopting a child and filming it and putting it on social media. Now, I want you to watch this video and tell me what to think about, because there are ethical adoption and unethical adoption when it comes to transracial adoptions. I want you to watch this video with an open mind. Do you think the brother has a good intention? Do you think the brother did it with a good intention, or was it just what we called white saviorism? So tell me what you think in the comment section after watching the video. And please guys, if you watch the video and resonate with everything which is happening, you can consider subscribing to my channel. This is Eugene from Kenya. Until then, let's watch the video.
Don't we love when non-African people go to this beautiful country called Africa and grab themselves one beautiful child, just grab it and go home. All the beautiful things white privilege can do. Isn't that just beautiful? I mean, probably you might want to say, I legally human trafficked a child out of an African country, but that might just be me. I don't know, that might just be me, because last time I checked, Africa is a continent with 54 different countries. And why would you name the country? After all of Africa is the same thing, right? Tunisia, South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Niger, Chad, Senegal, all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's all Africa, right? Why would you emphasize where your adopted daughter actually comes from? Because her cultural identity and heritage doesn't matter one bit for you. You needed to express and exercise your white saviorism. That's why you went to Africa and used all of your white privilege to just grab one child and adopt her because you so much fell in love with her, right? You know, the funny thing is, if y'all were actually interested in the well-being of the child, you wouldn't fucking human traffic that child across the globe, take that child off their roots, deprive their child of their cultural identity and heritage, disconnect that child from their biological parents, from their surroundings, from their culture and their identity. You would set up something like maybe a monthly fund or whatever. You will make sure that that child is financially stable, gets education, food, and shelter without having to human traffic that child across the fucking globe. That would have been caring about the child's well-being. What do you think, as a non-black person, as a non-African person, you have to offer to that child? And I know some of y'all are so quick to be like, oh, love, every child deserves to be loved. And I will die on that hill. Love is not enough. And the fact that y'all think love is enough shows me that you have absolutely no education and no empathy and no understanding for the identity of a black person in a white or predominantly white society and in a whitewashed world that does everything but good to that black child's identity and their blackness. And then you have not even taken that child into their new environment, and you've already abused her for content on social media to show the world what kind of a good person you are. Like, is the maths not mathing to y'all? What's the point? What's the point? Why are white people so fucking obsessed with adopting black children from African countries, literally derooting them, bringing them out of their usual environment where they are one of many, and making them literally the target for racial profiling, for racism and discrimination every day of their lives until whenever, with absolutely zero understanding to their blackness and why your own whiteness is a trigger and a microaggression in black spaces. No, what you want to do is you travel across the world, grab yourself a child like you're going to fucking Target to grab some new makeup brushes and abuse that child for content. And then on top of it, you want the world to think you're such a good person. And I will repeat myself, if the well-being of an African child that grows up in poverty, which I find it quite interesting how none of y'all actually addresses why so many African countries are in poverty and why so many African siblings are having to grow up in poverty. But it's so much easier to talk about the consequences or the situation and not about the results or about the reasoning, right? Because the reasoning means y'all also have to actually sit down with your whiteness and decolonize your whiteness and why your whiteness is a problem to the world and the peace in the world. But okay, let's just forget why African people grow up in poverty. Many African people grow up in poverty, and let's just look at how are we going to satisfy our white saviorism. Let's just go and buy a child. You'll literally wake up one day and decide to buy a child like other people go and buy, I don't know, groceries for the week. And it's alarming. It's alarming. You are playing with the human life. You are abusing another person's child for your content. How do y'all not see the problem with that? And I'm well aware of the fact that there are parents that do not want their children. I'm well aware of that. But the truth of the matter is, these are absolutely minorities. The majority of people that are giving their children out for adoption are doing so because of capitalism and the results and the consequences of capitalism and of neocolonization and of colonization before neocolonization. But y'all will not even sit a minute with that. Y'all will not even sit down and be like, adoption system is rigged. It should not be the case. How can you sit down, pay like $8,000, $9,000 and get a human being, and you think nothing is wrong with that? You really think nothing is wrong with that? You think you're helping? You're so delusional. You're so far from reality that you're using your whiteness as a shield to your own ignorance. You are protecting yourself from yourself because you know how painful the truth actually is. And like I said, if the well-being of African children was actually, truthfully, your concern and not the fact that you just want to raise a child, whatever intentions you may have. By the way, adoption is not the reason or the solution to your infertility. It isn't. Adoption is legalized human trafficking, but I digress. If the well-being of that child was your priority and you fell in love with that child and wanted to help that child genuinely out of the goodness of your heart, what you do is provide financial aid so the child can stay where she is, where she belongs, where she feels, and where she has community, where she is home, where she is from, where her roots are. You will make sure that that child can stay in her environment, in her homeland, and better her condition financially. And if you want, maybe once or twice a year, you can be the good uncle from abroad and come and visit your whatever child, foster child. It's not even a foster child. Like kind of like your niece. But no. Y'all want ownership. It's not about helping. Y'all want ownership over another human being to prove yourself you're such a good person. White people should not adopt black children. And that's on that. I don't know. If you think love is enough, please just go and delete the internet on your phone. And one last thing, slum. Slum. You could have said village. You could have said local government area. You could have said community. But you choose the word slum. In the context of Africa and a black child. Because that's the only thing you like to describe the motherland with, right? That's the language you use when it comes to the mother of humanity. A slum. You got your daughter from a slum in Africa. You don't need to mention where she is from. You don't need to mention her cultural heritage. You do not need to pay any respect to the people surrounding you because you're a white man, right? And you are the default anyway. So you are free to label things however you please. It doesn't matter to you. That's why you went to a slum in Africa to buy a child.
Well. Welcome back. I hope you know that transracial adoption is a sensitive topic that the person who is adopting the child need to pay attention to a lot of things. And viewing this scenario as an African, viewing this issue as an African, I feel like the child will have to face a lot of problems. So that being said, I hope that the person who adopted the child did it with good intention. Well, a number of things that the child will be alienated from. One is the cultural heritage. Two is culture. Two is the life. How will he experience the life? He'll be alienated. If the parents are alive, remember, he will miss the parents. The parents won't be around. So, some type of way, there will be some alienation from the biological parents. If the parents are not alive, well, I believe that they are siblings. Also, the sister raised an important question. If you're a person who wants to adopt a child, if you have to adopt, it's okay. But if you can help the child while they're in Africa, I think it's important. I know a group of children who receive support from overseas while in Africa. They have never been adopted. Well, if he adopted the child with good intentions, I got no problem. If he followed all the procedures, I got no problem. But the problem comes when he has to share this on the internet. And I don't like the word I adopted a child from a slum in Africa. That connotation itself shows a lot that we Africans, we are still suffering. Of course, we might be still suffering, but it is not to that extent. Like, we are still, I mean, I don't know, it just sounds a little bit downgrading, black people in general, or Africans in general. I'll also talk about some things that the black lady raised. To the parents who are adopting these children, to the biological parents who allows these children to be adopted while they're alive, they need to know a number of things. One, they need to respect the child's culture and heritage, because you are alienating this from the child, especially when the child is living from Africa to the United States or European countries, because this child will grow. After this child will grow, he will live in an environment where there is something called racial profiling, systemic racism. He will not be protected because of his color. And this is the same thing in which black people who are in European countries face. So he'll be growing in an environment alienated this. What are the psychological problems that the child might have, being told that, you were just adopted and you are not even from this family, you belong in somewhere in slum in Africa where you're taken? It can be a sad thing for a person who is growing, especially when you're adopted. I want you guys to tell me what you think about this scenario in the comment section. Also, another thing that I would like to say that the sister raised, there are alternatives in which they could conduct this. One, they could be paying for the child food, maybe, some services that the child might receive, other than just taking the child and going with them in the European country. Fair enough. Maybe he wanted to help him fully by taking the child, but feeling him it, I kind of had a problem with that. First, the people who are taking the child, when you are the adopter, you also need to understand the African culture. And when the child is growing, don't take this away from the child. Now, this is the problem. You are alienating the child, their culture, their heritage, their identity. I mean, you understand what's happening to the child emotionally, psychologically, when they're growing up. For now, it might seem okay, For now, it might really seem okay, but later on, there are some psychological problems. There's some emotional problem that the child will develop. Also, one thing I'll say, the sister said something: love is not enough. These alienations make, a person's history defines who they are. A person's history really defines who they are. In as much as you're being given love, but you don't know your history, there is a problem somewhere. For me, the child should be taught African culture, should be shown the African identity, and let people know who he really is, where he comes from, whether it is Islam, whether it is where. He has to know his heritage, he has to know his culture, he has to know his identity. And these things are being scrapped off from this child because, he's a baby. Okay, I understand. The guy is doing it from goodwill, he wants the child from a goodwill. But I hope he will follow to the latter, the things that the child has been alienated. The child will just start crying because they misses their parent. The sister also talked about child trafficking, a legalized child trafficking. Well, if they signed some papers, they did some things, the legal procedures, the way it usually been done, I got no problem with that. My only concern is the alienations that this child will face. Growing up in a society where you don't even know you will wake up in the morning while you're a black person. I don't know if this is white saviorism, or this is something which has been done for favor, has been done out of goodwill. Guys, tell me what you think in the comment section about this issue. I don't know if I've forgotten to say something, but also one thing that I would like to say for the last time, the adopter should provide a safe environment for the child, not taking him away from Africa and then putting him in a society where it is not safe. They should provide a safe environment for the child. I think those are things which are also indoctrined while signing those papers. So that was that. Kindly guys, subscribe to my channel if you're watching it for the first time. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Let's meet somewhere tomorrow. Salute.